They gave the world some of the greatest music ever recorded, and then they were gone, under circumstances that still don't add up. Shot, fallen, collapsed. Ruled suicide, ruled accident, ruled closed, while the people who loved them spent decades saying that's not what happened. 12 legends, 12 unanswered questions. Number 12 is where it starts. Number 12, Little Willie John. 12 soul legends, 12 deaths that were never fully explained. Official causes on paper, but families who never stopped asking questions. Witnesses who changed their stories, and evidence that didn't add up. By the end of this list, you'll understand why insiders still whisper about what really happened. Number 12 starts it all. A prison cell in Washington State, 1968. Little Willie John had one of the most powerful voices in R&B history. The man who wrote and first recorded Fever before Peggy Lee ever touched it. His voice could shatter a room, but by the mid-1960s, his career had collapsed under the weight of a fatal stabbing charge from a bar fight in Seattle. He was convicted of manslaughter and sent to Washington State Penitentiary in 1966. 2 years later, prison officials announced he had died of a heart attack. He was just 30 years old. That was the official story, but his family never accepted it. Willie John had reportedly been in good health. There were no records made public detailing any cardiac history. His sister, singer Mabel John, spent decades pushing for answers she never fully got, questioning the conditions inside the prison. The medical care he did or didn't receive, and why a man in his physical prime would drop dead so suddenly. Some who knew him inside the system suggested he'd been targeted, that his fame and his temper made him a mark. Others pointed to the brutal, often neglectful medical treatment black inmates received in prisons of that era, arguing the heart attack label was simply the easiest explanation for a system that had no interest in digging deeper. No independent investigation was ever conducted. No autopsy findings were made widely available to the public. The label that once celebrated his talent, the man who influenced James Brown, Elvis Presley, and Michael Jackson, all of whom covered his songs, barely acknowledged his death at all. To this day, what happened to Little Willie John remains one of soul music's coldest cases. A man who gave the world Fever and Talk to Me died behind bars with no clear explanation and no one with the power to demand one. It's a pattern you're about to see repeat again and again and again on this list. Number 11 is even harder to explain. Number 11, Al Jackson Jr. He was the heartbeat of Stax Records, literally. Al Jackson Jr.'s drumming built the entire Memphis soul sound. Green Onions, Hold On, I'm Coming, In the Midnight Hour. If you've ever felt a soul groove lock into place, you were feeling Al Jackson Jr., and in 1975, he was shot dead in his own home, a killing that police never solved. The official account states that Jackson returned home in the early morning hours of October 1st and was shot multiple times, allegedly by an intruder. Some reports at the time suggested his estranged wife, Barbara, had been involved in a domestic dispute that turned violent, and that she claimed an intruder was responsible. She was arrested, then released. No one was ever charged. No one was ever convicted. The case went cold almost immediately. What makes it more unsettling is the timing. Jackson had reportedly been trying to distance himself from Stax's collapse. The label was drowning in debt and internal conflict by the mid-1970s. And some insiders have long speculated that the volatile mix of money, mismanagement, and desperation inside Stax's final years created dangerous pressure on the people closest to it. Whether that pressure had anything to do with his death has never been proven, and, according to those who worked alongside him, never been ruled out either. Memphis police records from the case are incomplete by modern standards. Interviews with people who might have had information were reportedly limited. The story that made it into the papers was simple. Domestic incident, unidentified intruder, unsolved. But musicians who worked with Jackson for over a decade have said publicly they never believed that was the whole picture. Al Jackson Jr. helped build one of the most influential sounds in American music history, and he was buried without anyone ever answering for his death. Nearly 50 years later, the case remains open, unresolved, and largely forgotten outside of soul music circles. Number 10 involves a song that seemed to predict its own singer's fate.
Here's something most people don't realize. Only about 10% of you watching will hit subscribe. The other 90% just watch and move on. You made it this far, so you're clearly not most people. Hit subscribe. Back to the countdown.
Number 10, Chuck Willis. In 1958, a song called What Am I Living For was climbing the charts, one of the biggest hits of Chuck Willis's career. Weeks later, he was dead. The eerie timing turned an already sad story into something people still can't quite explain away as coincidence. Willis, known as the King of the Stroll, had one of the smoothest voices in early R&B, a direct bridge between blues and the soul sound that would explode in the 1960s. He was scheduled for what should have been a routine procedure to treat a stomach ulcer. According to reports at the time, complications developed during or after the surgery, and Willis died on April 10, 1958. He was 30 years old. The official cause was listed as peritonitis, a severe abdominal infection following the surgery. On paper, it reads like an unfortunate medical outcome, but questions have lingered for decades about the quality of care available to black patients at hospitals in the segregated South. During that era, care that was frequently under-resourced, understaffed, and, according to numerous documented accounts from the period, dangerously inconsistent. Was Chuck Willis a victim of a routine complication, or a victim of a healthcare system that too often failed black patients when it mattered most? No independent medical review of his case has ever been publicly conducted. His family accepted the official explanation, but the broader question of whether better, more attentive care could have saved him has never gone away. Then there's the song itself, What Am I Living For? Released just as he was preparing for surgery, climbing to number 1 on the R&B charts as he lay dying. Audiences at the time couldn't shake the feeling that he'd somehow written his own farewell. It became one of the most haunting instances of art, appearing to foreshadow tragedy in music history. Chuck Willis never lived to see how influential his sound would become, laying groundwork Otis Redding and Sam Cooke would later build entire careers on. A routine surgery, an eerie hit song, a death that raises questions about a system, not just a diagnosis. Number 9 gets even more unsettling. Number 9, Larry Williams. Larry Williams gave rock and roll and R&B some of their most electric early hits, Boney Maroney, Short Fat Fanny, songs that directly influenced the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. But behind the hits was a much darker life, one tangled up in the Los Angeles underworld of drugs and organized crime. In January 1980, Williams was found dead in his home from a single gunshot wound. Police ruled it a suicide. Almost no one close to him believed that ruling. By the late 1970s, Williams had reportedly become deeply involved in narcotics trafficking, a business that came with dangerous partners and even more dangerous debts. Friends and family members have said publicly, for decades, that the idea of him taking his own life didn't match the man they knew. someone they described as combative, resilient, and far too entangled in ongoing business to simply walk away. The circumstances of the scene were reportedly inconsistent enough that questions were raised at the time, though the investigation was closed quickly. No thorough forensic re-examination was ever pursued. If Williams had been targeted by associates from the world he'd been operating in, a world known for silencing people who owed money or knew too much, the case closed label would have been the safest, simplest outcome for everyone involved except him. What makes it more suspicious to those who study his story is the pattern. Williams had reportedly been growing increasingly paranoid in his final months, telling people close to him that he feared for his safety. Whether that fear was justified in the specific way that ended his life has never been independently confirmed. Shaped the sound of two genres and never got to see the credit fully paid. His death was filed away fast, with an official explanation that almost no one who knew him accepted. It's one of the most quietly disturbing entries on this list, and it's about to get more painful. Number 8 is a story about a warning ignored. Number 8. Jackie Wilson. Jackie Wilson was one of the greatest live performers in the history of American music, a man Elvis Presley reportedly called the greatest natural talent he'd ever seen. On September 29, 1975, mid-performance at a New Jersey club, Wilson collapsed on stage from a massive heart attack. He would spend the next 8 years in a coma-like state before dying in 1984. But it's what happened in the years leading up to that collapse, and in the years after that, still troubles people who followed his career closely. Wilson had reportedly been struggling for years with the financial exploitation common to black artists of his era, mismanaged contracts, unpaid royalties, and a career that had generated fortunes for others while leaving him in increasingly precarious circumstances. Friends said the stress had been building for a long time before that night on stage. What happened after his collapse is where the real controversy lives. Wilson lingered in hospitals and care facilities for nearly 9 years, largely forgotten by an industry that had once celebrated him. Reports at the time suggested his care was underfunded and inconsistent, that visits from former collaborators were rare, and that the man who'd filled arenas spent his final years in conditions far below what his legacy should have guaranteed. Some who were close to him have asked a difficult question ever since. If Jackie Wilson had received the kind of medical attention, advocacy, and financial support that a star of his stature would receive today, would he have recovered? Would he have lived? No one can answer that with certainty, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes his story so hard to let go of. Jackie Wilson didn't die suddenly, in one shocking moment. He died slowly, over 9 years, in circumstances many believe were preventable. It's one of the most tragic entries on this list, precisely because there was time that wasn't used. Number 7 is about a fall that's never fully added up. Number 7. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway had one of the most gifted voices and musical minds soul music ever produced. The man behind This Christmas, and half of one of the greatest duet partnerships in music history, alongside Roberta Flack. On January 13, 1979, he fell to his death from the 15th floor of the Essex House Hotel in New York City. Police ruled it a suicide. His family and closest collaborators have disputed that conclusion for over 4 decades. Hathaway had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia years earlier, and by the late 1970s, he was reportedly managing serious mental health struggles, including periods of paranoia and delusion. That part isn't disputed. What is disputed is what actually happened in that hotel room in his final hours. Roberta Flack, who was working with him on new material that same week, and had spoken with him just hours before his death, has said publicly over the years that she never believed he intended to take his own life. According to people close to him at the time, he had seemed hopeful, engaged in the music, and looking forward to finishing the record they were working on together. The window in his room was found open, and there were reportedly no signs of forced entry or struggle, but no witnesses and no note. Some theories suggest a psychotic episode led to an accidental fall rather than a deliberate act. Others have raised harder questions about who else might have been present that night, though no evidence has ever substantiated foul play. The truth is that no one knows for certain what happened in the moments before Donny Hathaway went out that window, and the official ruling has never fully satisfied the people who loved him most. Donny Hathaway left behind some of the most emotionally devastating recordings in soul music history, and a death that his own musical partner spent decades quietly questioning. Number 6 brings us to a case where the timing itself feels impossible to ignore. Number 6. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman had a voice built for heartbreak, deep, aching, unmistakable. On June 30th, 1995, just hours before she was scheduled to headline a major show at the Apollo Theater, she was found dead in her New York apartment from an overdose of barbiturates. The coroner ruled it a suicide. Her family accepted that ruling, but the timing has haunted fans and colleagues for nearly 3 decades. Hyman had reportedly struggled for years with depression, and had spoken openly to friends about feeling that the industry had never given her the recognition or financial stability her talent deserved. Those struggles were real and well documented. What's harder to explain is why, if she had made a final decision, she would do it hours before what should have been one of the biggest nights of her career, a sold-out run at one of the most storied venues in black music history. She reportedly left behind a note that referenced physical health issues and exhaustion with the fight to keep going. Language that friends said reflected both genuine despair and, possibly, frustration at an industry that had repeatedly underpaid and overlooked her despite her talent. Some who knew her have wondered aloud whether external pressure, financial strain, industry neglect, unresolved health issues she'd kept private pushed her to a breaking point that a healthier support system might have caught in time. There's no evidence of foul play in Phyllis Hyman's death, but there is a persistent, painful question about whether the outcome was preventable, whether an industry that profited from her voice for 2 decades ever gave her the support that might have kept her here for the biggest night of her career. Number 5 takes us back further, to a tragedy in the sky. Number 5. Otis Redding. Otis Redding was on the verge of becoming the biggest star in American music. Dock of the Bay hadn't even been released yet. On December 10th, 1967, his small plane crashed into the icy waters of Lake Monona in Wisconsin, killing Redding, 4 members of his backing band, the Bar-Kays, and the pilot. Only one person survived. Decades later, the decision to fly that night is still being questioned. Reports at the time indicated the weather was poor fog and rain reducing visibility significantly. Redding's team reportedly had the option to delay the flight or take a commercial route instead, but chose to continue on schedule in the twin-engine plane to make a television appearance the following day. The exact cause of the crash was never conclusively determined. Theories have ranged from pilot error in poor visibility to a mechanical malfunction that was never fully investigated to modern standards. What troubles people who've studied the case is how routine the decision to fly seemed at the time. How normalized the pressure was for black artists in that era to keep grueling, relentless tour schedules regardless of conditions. Because missed dates meant missed money in an industry that offered them little financial safety net to begin with. Some have argued that pressure, more than any single mechanical failure, is what really put that plane in the air that night. Ben Corley, the sole survivor, has spoken about the crash publicly over the years, describing a chaotic, sudden descent with no clear warning. His account has never fully aligned with some of the official explanations offered afterward, adding another thread of uncertainty to a tragedy that took one of soul music's brightest futures with it. Otis Redding never got to see Dock of the Bay become a #1 hit, released after his death. A single decision on a foggy December night ended one of the greatest careers soul music would ever produce. Number 4 is a story soul fans still can't discuss without disagreement. Number 4. Tammi Terrell. Tammi Terrell collapsed into Marvin Gaye's arms on stage in October 1967, mid-performance. During one of their duets, she was 24 years old. The diagnosis that followed was devastating: a malignant brain tumor. She would undergo 8 surgeries over the following 3 years, before dying in March 1970. On paper, it's a tragic but medically explainable story. Beneath the surface, questions about what caused her decline have never fully gone away. Before her collapse, Terrell had reportedly been in a relationship with singer David Ruffin of The Temptations, one that friends and colleagues have long described as troubled and at times physically volatile. In the years since, several people close to her, including family members, have suggested that repeated physical trauma during that period may have contributed to or accelerated the tumor's growth or her overall decline, though this has never been medically confirmed, and doctors have generally maintained the tumor's origin was unrelated to any external injury. Motown, meanwhile, reportedly kept Terrell performing through worsening symptoms, dizzy spells, headaches, and fainting episodes for longer than her declining health should have allowed, prioritizing tour schedules and album releases over her well-being. Some who worked alongside her at the label have said the warning signs were visible for months before her onstage collapse, and that more urgent medical attention earlier on might have changed her outcome. Marvin Gaye was reportedly never the same after watching her collapse in his arms. He rarely performed live for years afterward and spoke for the rest of his life about how deeply her death affected him. Whether her illness was purely biological or worsened by circumstances no one intervened to stop, remains one of the most quietly debated tragedies in Motown's history. Number 3 is the label's most devastating and most avoidable loss. Number 3. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye's death is, on paper, the least mysterious entry on this list. And yet it remains one of the most emotionally unresolved. On April 1, 1984, one day before his 45th birthday, Gaye was shot and killed by his own father, Marvin Gaye Sr., during an argument at the family home in Los Angeles. His father was charged, pled no contest to voluntary manslaughter, and received probation rather than prison time. The who was never in question. The why it was allowed to reach that point is what still haunts people. Gaye had reportedly moved back into his parents' home during a period of serious drug dependency and declining mental health. After years of career triumphs, shadowed by financial ruin and personal turmoil, friends and family have said the relationship between Marvin and his father had been volatile for decades, marked by documented physical confrontations dating back to Gaye's childhood. People close to the family have said publicly that warning signs of an eventual violent confrontation had been visible for years, and that intervention from the family, from people around Gaye, from anyone, could have prevented that final morning. The lenient sentencing his father received also drew significant criticism at the time and in the decades since, with many questioning whether a different outcome would have followed if the roles or the family's fame had been different. Some who studied the case have argued the plea deal reflected a court unwilling to fully reckon with the reality of what had happened inside that house. Marvin Gaye had reportedly been trying to rebuild his life and career at the time of his death, with a major comeback album on the way. He never got the chance. One of the most influential voices in American music was killed by the person who was supposed to protect him, and the system that followed offered very little accountability. Number 1 is the case that's haunted soul music for over 60 years.
Now we're gonna get it on.
Number 2, Frankie Lymon. He was the first teenage star of rock and roll, the voice behind Why Do Fools Fall in Love at just 13 years old. Fronting Frankie Lymon and the Teenagers and selling millions of records before he could legally drive. By 25, he was dead on his grandmother's bathroom floor from a heroin overdose. The official cause was never in dispute. What's been disputed for decades is everything that led him there. Lyman's career had been managed and mismanaged by adults from the moment he became famous. Contracts signed away his publishing rights while he was still a minor. And by most accounts, he saw only a fraction of the fortune his voice generated. Family members and biographers have long argued that the exploitation started almost immediately, and that no one in his orbit was looking out for a child who'd become an industry overnight. By his late teens, with the hits gone and the money mostly gone with them, Lymon reportedly turned to heroin as his career collapsed around him. He attempted comebacks throughout the 1960s that repeatedly fell apart. On February 27, 1968, he was found dead by his grandmother, a needle nearby. He was 25 years old and had reportedly been trying to get clean at the time. What still troubles people who've studied his case isn't the cause of death, it's the decade of unanswered what-ifs that preceded it. Could better contracts, honest management, or basic financial protection for a child star have kept him out of the poverty and desperation that followed his fame? Multiple biographers and family members have argued yes, that the industry built a fortune on a 13-year-old's voice and then discarded him the moment the hits stopped. There's also long-running, unresolved legal disputes over his estate and royalties that continued for years after his death, with multiple women claiming to be his widow and a fight over his publishing rights that dragged through courts for decades. Even in death, the question of who was entitled to what he'd earned remained unsettled. Frankie Lymon helped invent teen pop stardom, and the industry that built him up never fully accounted for what it took from him. Number 1 is the case that's haunted soul music longer than any other, and it's next. Number 1. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke didn't just sing soul music, he built the commercial and creative template for the entire genre, and became one of the first black artists in America to seize real ownership over his own masters and publishing. On December 11, 1964, he was shot and killed at a motel in Los Angeles by the motel's manager, who claimed self-defense. He was 33 years old. 6 decades later, it remains the single most disputed death in American music history. The official account states that Cooke had checked into the motel with a woman named Elisa Boyer, that a confrontation followed, that Boyer fled with most of Cooke's clothing, and that Cooke, enraged and reportedly intoxicated, broke down the manager's office door demanding to know where she'd gone. The manager, Bertha Franklin, said she shot him in self-defense after he allegedly attacked her. A coroner's inquest ruled the shooting justifiable homicide in under 15 minutes of deliberation. Cooke's family and generations of historians have never accepted that timeline. Inconsistencies between Boyer's and Franklin's accounts have been extensively documented. Reports at the time noted Cooke's wallet and expensive jewelry were reportedly missing when his body was examined. The speed of the inquest, a formal proceeding lasting minutes,
last for long.
For a case involving one of the most successful black entertainers in the country, has struck researchers for decades as strikingly inadequate, given the stakes and Cooke's stature.
Said I know.
Given Cooke's outspoken support for the civil rights movement and his increasingly assertive business independence from the white-controlled music industry at the time, some historians and family members have long suspected the investigation was rushed, specifically to avoid deeper scrutiny. Though no direct evidence of a broad... What is documented is the case was closed almost as quickly as it opened, with the official story leaving far more questions than answers. Sam Cooke wrote, "A change is gonna come," as an anthem for a movement he never lived to see succeed. His death, sudden, violent, and controversial, in ways that were barely investigated at the time, remains the wound soul music has never fully healed. 60 years later, we still don't have the full truth, and maybe we never will.
That a change is gonna come one day. I know a change.